in Haiti, you like swim in like streams, rivers, you know, open water sources, things like that. And it's a story about this guy. He was there to take a shower, as everyone does, but he was there by himself at a particular time. And he obviously, mermaids, these are called sirens technically. They sing, and it was luring him out deeper into the stream, because when you're just taking a shower, you don't have to go that far, you know? So it was taking him in places that people usually don't go all the way there. They take him, trap him under the water. He's gone. What's so crazy is that he comes back on land. Like, he's on the land now. He was gone. He came back. He's on land now. He's on the land. He's like, everybody sees him and they're like, what? Like, did you just rise up from the dead? And he's like looking at them like, what do you mean? Like, what? Like, I just went to go take a shower. Like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, you've been missing for years. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, all I could remember is I took a shower. And he was just missing. So what people were telling him within the community, like, what was the last thing? Like, what happened? Like, you took a shower. What was the last thing? He said, all I remember is I heard somebody singing, and this is all obviously in Creole. This is in Haiti. He said, I heard somebody singing, and I followed that sound. And he said that's all he remembers. Obviously, the folklore in the Caribbean on mermaids is that once they lure you into whatever body of water that they lure you into, it doesn't matter if it's a sea, ocean, river, whatever, a ravine, whatever. If they do not kill you, automatically you become their servant. So you are, by the time that they get you, they can make you sustainable to be able to live underwater for the time that you were their servant. So this guy basically was their servant, whatever, the mermaid, whatever. And then they brought him back up when they were done with him. And he doesn't know, he didn't age. He doesn't know what happened. It was like they like touched him, brainwashed. He didn't know what went up the water. And that's all he remembers is he took a shower.
So my parents were very religious. My mother used to do Bible study at our neighbor's house every Thursday. So one Thursday, she was getting ready to go to Bible study. And I always attended Bible study with them. So she was getting ready in her room. While I was in the backyard, I could see through the house. I looked through the house. I saw my mother leaving to go to the Bible study. So I ran after her. She started walking faster and faster. I called her name. I screamed her name. She never turned around. I walked faster and faster trying to catch up with her. I could not catch up with my mom. She went through a corridor that was really, really dark. I went through the corridor, which was the wrong way, but I didn't question anything because that was my mom. So finally, she stopped near the ocean. I finally caught up with my mother. I grabbed her hand. I grabbed her clothes and I said, Mom, I've been running after you. Why didn't you stop? And what are we doing here? This person just turned around and looked at me. It was a totally different woman. I have never seen this woman before, and I never see her again. So I let her hand go, and I ran back home. I ran for my life. And when I got home, surprise, surprise, my mother was wearing the same outfit that this woman, whoever she was wearing. Yeah.
So my mom has a cousin in Haiti, and he was at a marché, which you would call a farmer's market in English, right? They be having like all kinds of natural stuff out, herbs, medicine, vegetables, fruits, whatever you need for yourself. So he sees this fine girl. Mind you, mermaids, they can shapeshift, right? They can shapeshift into very, very beautiful beings. So he sees this brown-skinned girl with ginger hair. He walks up to her. Mind you, she's not saying a single word to this man. She's just shaking her head up and down and looks at him. So she has her sack. I don't know what they call it, honestly, in English, but it's like this big bowl or something, and they'll put their stuff in like an island. One would carry it on their heads. So she finished getting all her stuff, right? He's like, let me carry this for you. So he puts it on his bicycle. They start walking. I think he was like trying to walk her home or something. So mind you, they're in Undale, which means like the countryside or outside from the city. So they walking in the woods and they come across this river. He looks at Shawty and he says, so how you finna get home or get across this river? Bro, tell me why Shawty walk up to the river, looks at kid, grabs her. The river splits open and she jumps in there. He had passed out and didn't speak to nobody for like a month straight. I think it was a month or 10 days. I'm not really sure. I gotta ask my mom. But he didn't speak to nobody. I'm surprised she didn't grab him and take him with her, because they're known for like kidnapping people. Because like what they do, they would shapeshift in like a beautiful form, and they would kidnap water. But I'm gonna save that story for another day.
Just a little bit, and then I'm gonna translate it for you guys in English. He said that back in the day, when they used to go to church, there was this witch. One morning, they came to church on Sunday, and the pastor, and they're a really good, genuine pastor with real serious power in Haiti. I can't speak for anywhere else, but I know in Haiti,
They be some real godly people. So the pastor goes, I know that there are some people who come to church that are witches. On Saturday, y'all fly and y'all go do all of these evil acts. And then on Sunday, y'all come to church trying to pretend like y'all righteous, like y'all good people. But I know exactly what you are and I can see through you. And I'm warning you right now, when it comes time to receive communion, if you come in and you get communion, I promise you that it will be stuck in your throat. I know how it is, right? People just be like, they're bluffing, they're kidding, ain't no way. Ain't no way. You know, the time comes, it's time to get up to receive communion. Why does this lady know that she's a witch, a lugau, and she really walked up and got communion? Bro, sure enough, just like the pastor said, the fucking thing got stuck in her throat and she couldn't talk anymore. She literally became mute. So then her daughter comes back. Her daughter comes with her and her daughter says to the pastor, like, can you please undo whatever it is that you did to my mother? She has been mute. She can't talk ever since she went up to get communion. She's not able to verbally communicate. The pastor just looked at her and said, you knew what you were and I gave you a fair warning. I told you that if you come up and receive communion, what was going to happen to you and you didn't need my warning, what is done and it cannot be undone. Now deceased. This woman spent the rest of her life mute.
Today's video is all about mermaids, sirens, and sea demons. This video has been requested a lot. If you're on my Instagram, I do Q&As and requests on my stories often, and this was one of the most requested. And I'm going to get into it with you guys and tell you guys some of the stories that have come out of Haiti as well. I don't know how you guys will feel about this video, but I'm curious to read your comments below. But before we get into it, I want to ask you guys, comment below, do you believe that mermaids is a real thing? Where do you stand on it? Without me yet swaying your opinion. I will speak on other experiences, facts, the history of where it came from, and also the Bible. I'm so excited to get into this video. But before we get into it first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Crean Mental Gems. This channel is dedicated to leveling up in all areas of your life. So let us learn together, read together, but most importantly, grow together. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. There's this infatuation with mermaids I see, especially in the West. In American and European cultures, there's this strong fascination. But in African culture and Caribbean culture, specifically in Haiti too. In Haiti, everywhere you go, you'll see paintings and arts of mermaid, and people recount, their mermaid stories, and they even worship mermaid deities or sea demon deities. But in America, we have little Ariel, the little mermaid. We have the little mermaid infatuations, and everyone wants to be called a mermaid or a siren. Like we label Marilyn Monroe as a siren, and usually when you call a woman a siren in America, that means that they are seductive and enticing, and men just fall at their feet. So there is this glamorization of the terms, with a lot of people not really knowing just how deep it goes. And depending on who you ask, like if there are some people that you ask in African cultures and also Caribbean culture, and I'm from Haiti, there's people that really see, like the sea demons and the mermaids and sirens and things as not really a negative thing. And I'm sure many will debate me in a comment like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad deity to worship or whatever. That it's culture, it's this, it's that. But I'll leave my opinion for the end of it. I do notice the infatuation with American culture or cultures that aren't that never really dealt with these beings. For most, mermaids is a mythical creature, right? Through Greek mythology, there has always been all these mythical creatures that we've heard about have been here through generations, right? For instance, dragons. Have you seen a dragon today? No, but the Bible make reference to dragons a lot. The dragon is mentioned throughout the Bible so many times. And also Leviathan is also a sea creature that is mentioned in the Bible a lot. Actually, in a couple verses, in Isaiah 27 verse 1, it says, "In the day the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea." So the Lord also says there's a dragon under the sea, and that is biblical. That's everywhere, right? We all know that the sea is a crazy place. It is, I believe, and that's just my opinion based off my own research and things like that. You don't have to believe me that space is not out there. It's under the sea, traveling and stuff like that. There's a lot of people in Haiti that would do traveling under the sea. Spiritual traveling from whatever gifts their gods that they are serving gives them. And I believe that there is And the Bible speaks about the dragon that is in the sea. Maybe we're not seeing the fire-breathing dragon out, and about because it's under the sea. And there's been sightings way in the past of fishermen that used to go deep sea fishing before the era of telephones and stuff like that, whether in Greek, Roman, Asian, throughout history, there's been different accounts of these creatures, and these people did not used to spread information like that, but the drawings, the art were all very similar. So it's like there has to be some truth to these creatures if these people were not like cross-referencing or sharing information like that, but yet in their drawings, in their arts, they would come up looking the same. And then in Job 41 verse 1 to 34, but we're not going to read the whole 1 through 34, God was speaking to Job and responding to Job and says, can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many pleas to you? Will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you to take him for your servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird, or will you put him on a leash for your girls? Again, so many verses talking about it where this is like a scary creature, where the Lord is like telling Job, can you do this? I can. This supposed creature that so many people were afraid of, that is untamable. The Lord saying, I can draw him out by his nose and fish hook. Basically, you can't turn Leviathan into a pet for your girls, for your children, So it goes to reference that maybe under the sea, it's not even maybe, there might be, is this, a parable? Is this example the Lord is using, or is this a real living creature? And the Lord referenced, the beast, the mark of the beast, the dragon that we say a lot. So this is supposed to be this scary creature that's under the sea. And also in the 10 Commandments, the Lord said, do not worship anything that is above or below the ground and the sea. And we know that in many cultures, there's a lot of worship of sea creatures. It doesn't necessarily mean the dragon or the mermaids or whatever, but it could be that people back then used to just worship cows. They worship, creation instead of the creator. They worship Poseidon, and they have different gods for different parts of creation. The god of the sea, the god of the air, the god of the sun, the god of the trees, the god of fertility, the god of this. And God is the God of all. And the monotheistic belief, and y'all know that's where I'm coming from unapologetically. So I must say that with respect to all beliefs and what you believe. But God is the God of everything, but in different cultures, especially in the past, but it's common today just in different ways, they worship different deities for different things. And the Lord is God of all, the creator, right? Who created everything. And Leviathan under the sea seems to be that creature that is brought up a lot in the Bible. And so with that being said, there obviously are creatures, but who are exactly these creatures? Did God create these creatures? Why are they so scary? Why are they under the water? What are sea demons? How does all this make sense, Kareen? Get back. So I'm going to read a little excerpt from the Lore Library where it says, however, they apparently don't only inhabit the oceans, they inhabit other bodies of water as well, such as lakes and rivers. Mermaids are also known as marine spirits. Mermaids have been documented for thousands of years. There is even an ancient Egyptian painting that illustrates a war that happened between humans and mermaids. And again, it wasn't just Egypt, it was everywhere. They had their own art of mermaids, and they all were depicted the same way. These creatures are described as having a frightening appearance and also possessing supernatural abilities, particularly hypnotism with their voices, and telepathy, which is the ability to communicate mentally without speaking. Most of the time, they are described as having all black eyes, razor-sharp teeth, gills in their faces, and webbed fingers. These creatures spark the folklore surrounding the swamp monsters, right? Mermaids, also called sirens, were once humans, according to the Book of Enoch, daughters of mankind who married the fallen angels and produced a race of giants. God punished the daughters of mankind along with the fallen angels as a punishment, and God made those daughters a siren, what we call today as mermaids. Mermaids were commanded to live in water. They're evil creatures who entice male humans with their extreme beautifulness and charmness, and then trap humans and eat them afterwards. Throughout the history, many people were attacked and quote unquote killed by mermaids. You can check different stories on the internet if you want. The real mermaids are nothing compared to what today's society has portrayed it. They're not friendly, but in reality, they're scary and demonic. In regards to, because I know a lot of Christians says that angels cannot procreate, but I found an argument online that kind of in research for this with what the Book of Enoch says and some of the things is in terms of the Nephilim conversation. I found something interesting that said that question was, if angels can't reproduce, as Jesus said in the Bible, then who are the sons of God that took the daughters of men, married them, and created children known as the Nephilim, and then these women that became sirens, right? Jesus said in Matthew 22, verse 29 to 30, Jesus answered and said to them, "You are mistaken, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven." So in the resurrection, which is the second coming, angels do not have females. According to the Bible, there are only males. Who will they marry in heaven if there's no women for them to marry, right? So that's why in heaven, they do not marry. So it's obvious that they're not able to marry, and God does not permit, men and men to marry or even recreate. So that was the first problem with that. And angels were created completely on one creation day before day 3, as Job tells us, and fully formed, right? They did not reproduce over time and increase in number by marrying other female angels and having little angel babies, okay? They were just already there, created by God. Renaissance arts that you see all in the Vatican and all of those things, no. God just created angels. We as humans have the ability to procreate, okay? That's it. Secondly, Jude tells us, without telling us directly, that the angels were disabled or prevented by God from producing offspring after they were caught producing babies with female humans before the flood, which is amalgamation. Many biblical scholars have spoken about this. Biblically, it talks about there were these giants on the face of the earth. You think of David and Goliath, David in front of Goliath. There was a lot of giants, and even the Israelites, when they went to go look at Canaan, they came back and gave a report, and it was like, we're like grasshoppers in front of these men in these cities that the Lord wants us to conquer. We're like grasshoppers, meaning they were small in comparison to these men. So there was a time there were men that walked the face of the earth that were huge compared to what the average men or even the people of God should look like. The Philistines were known to be huge men, and they were also perverted men.
In the book of Genesis, it says that the sons of God came into the daughters of men. They created a hybrid offspring who were called the Nephilim, or the fallen ones. Some believe they were between 8 and 15 feet tall.
This is also handed down in Sumerian languages, that some of the gods had sex with humans and the offsprings were giants. Mythology is full of giants.
The Book of Genesis, chapter 6. This section of the Hebrew Bible contains a curious passage.
When we look at the modern evolutionary cycle for human beings, it's still put on the shoulders of Darwinistic views. So anything that steps outside of those viewpoints is usually greatly challenged.
In mythology, the giants were a fact. They did exist. What we are missing are the bones of giants. From time to time, anthropologists found some big bones, but then other anthropologists contradicted it.
Mainstream science has had a very hard time wrapping their head around the idea that there could have been a lost race, part extraterrestrial, part human.
So why don't we all know about it? How come it's not in history books?
Well, the policy of denial of the discovery of gigantic human skeletons actually wasn't enacted until about 1920. Before that time period, the Smithsonian acknowledged these giants in their own reports.
For years, I've been hearing stories, Native American legends about giants. It appears that we unearthed evidence, proof of their existence here in West Virginia. But for whatever reason, that proof was suppressed. It probably has to do with the fact that it doesn't fit with our model of human evolution.
We have to ask ourselves who these 7-8 foot giants were. Were they somehow the vestiges of these giants of the Bible? It's a mystery that archaeologists have yet to solve. Nephilim. These giant skeletons seem to be evidence of the Watchers and the Nephilim. You have these biblical stories of the Watchers and the sons of God coming to earth, breeding with humans to create this new race of giants. And part of the answer may be extraterrestrial DNA that's part of these giants.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Expedition Bible. I'm Joel Kramer. Today I want to cover a very interesting subject. The Bible talks about giants and the descendants of giants having lived in the biblical land in ancient times. And so is there anything that's been found in the archaeological record that provides evidence for these historical giants? In this video, we're going to look at a discovery that was made in Israel of a horde of giant metal weapons. This huge spearhead that is 66 centimeters long was found right here where I'm standing. Is on display. More spearheads from the Bronze Age. These are typical spearheads. You know, they look maybe 6 inches long, 7, 8 inches long at the most. And so this already is considered a huge spearhead. 2 more spearheads that are within a ½ inch of each other were also found, and you can see the difference in size. However, the largest spearhead that was found in the Monash horde is this one. Now, again, I just took the length of it from the drawing, 66 centimeters, that's 26 inches, and you just see how massive this spearhead is. We have a parallel of these spearheads in the biblical text. If we go to 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 16, we're introduced to this warrior, and we're given his name. His name is Ishbi-Benob, and then he's described specifically as one of the descendants of the giants, whose spear weighed 300 shekels of bronze. Isn't that interesting? We're not given his size and his weight, but we're given the weight of his spear, and it's talking about his entire spear. Now, if we take this the largest of the spearheads at Monash, this spearhead alone, just the head, is 5 pounds. But when it says 7 pounds in the Bible, it's talking about also the entire spear. So you got to put the shaft on this. Imagine how big that shaft, that pole must have been on a spear this big. It would have been much taller than a man. It would have weighed at least 2 pounds. It would have weighed probably much more than that. This is probably a bigger spear, a heavier spear than the one that's described in 2 Samuel 21:16. Is the authors write this: the spearheads bear signs of use, especially the heaviest, which is bent in one spot and worn in several places along the edges. Okay, so they're saying that these spears bear the evidence that they were used as spears. Despite them writing this, a little later in the article, they say, they write this: spears were used in war and fighting. In the case of the Monash spears, however, their unusual size and weight would appear to be an obstacle rather than an aid to anyone carrying them. We would like to suggest that these heavy spears may have been used in yet another way. And so they go on to suggest that these were decorative in nature. They were used as decorations. Now, why? Because they're too big to have been used by a normal-sized warrior. Okay, now you have to keep in mind that most scholars are secular, including the authors of this article. They don't believe in giants. They don't believe that giants existed and that they're historical. And therefore, they have to give another explanation for why these massive spearheads were found. And so they must be decorative. Keep in mind that earlier they had said, and especially the biggest one, had evidence for being used as a spearhead. This interpretation has to do with worldview. If you don't believe in, if you believe giants are fairy tale beings, then you're not going to interpret this as evidence of giants because you don't believe in them. However, for those of us who do believe in the Bible and its historicity, then we know that giants existed in the ancient past. And when we find giant weapons, then using the Bible, we would interpret them, certainly I would, to be evidence for what the Bible is describing in these descendants of giants. Now, also in the article that's very interesting is this. The authors wrote, a remarkable feature of the Monash horde were the small, thin, ridged copper plates, of which about 800 were found. We suggest that these plates are scales of armor. This also has a parallel in the Bible. If we just flip back from 2 Samuel to 1 Samuel chapter 17, then we have the account of Goliath, the most famous of all the biblical giants. In verse 4 of 1 Samuel 17, we are introduced to Goliath of Gath. In verse 5, it says that Goliath of Gath was armed with a coat of mail, and that the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. This is about 125 pounds. So we have archaeologically found at Monash this pile of 800 scales of body armor, and then we have body armor of a giant described in the biblical text. Now, very interestingly, the authors go on in the article to say this: the only parallel for the Monash scales was found at Tel Gath, where identical copper scales, also forming a package, were uncovered in the area of the city wall. Isn't that amazing? The only other place that body armor, like the body armor found at Monash, has been found is Tel Gath, the hometown of Goliath, who is the giant in the Bible, whose body armor is described for us and we're given its weight. The interpretation of the authors of the article are very similar with the body armor as with the spearheads. They say this. They say the great number of scales found would point to several coats of mail being hidden in the Monash hoard. What they're saying is it looks like this is one coat of armor, but it's way too many scales to be just one coat of armor. Therefore, there must be several different coats hidden within this pile of 800 scales. Now, that's one interpretation if you don't believe in giants. However, if you do believe in historical giants, because they're described in the Bible, then this could be the coat of armor for a single individual who, of course, would be a giant or a descendant of the giants. So in conclusion, here are the facts. We have archaeological discovery at Monash of these massive metal spearheads and body armor. We have a parallel of the huge spearhead found also at Megiddo. We also have a parallel of the body armor found at Monash, found at Tel Gath. We have a match. That's why I interpret this as evidence for biblical giants, because what's been found in the ground is comparable to what's described in the Bible as the weapons of these descendants of giants. Of course, a secular archaeologist, a secular interpretation is going to not consider this evidence for giants. And so in their case, they interpret it as there must be several coats of armor amongst these 800 scales, and these giant spearheads must be decorative. You can make up your own mind. You can weigh the evidence yourself. As for me, I see this as a correlation between the biblical text and what was found in the ground.
Enoch tells us it was since the day of Jared that they started to produce Nephilim children by taking human wives. That was Enoch's grandfather, right? If you believe in the Book of Enoch. Jude 1, verse 6-7 says, "And the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. As Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sensual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire." So like Sodom, meaning having intimacy that was not permitted, Sodom, what were they doing? What were they doing in Sodom? They were sleeping with corpse. They were doing a whole bunch of stuff, even, their own children and stuff like that. Yep. So that means doing intimate stuff. This is why they were corrupted. So the angels were like, according to Jude 6-7, as Sodom and Gomorrah, meaning it was sensual immorality with these angels, right? And then having left their own abode because it was against their mandate and outside of their legal and rightful domain, meaning abode limits, boundaries that the Lord set on them, they left it to be like Sodom and Gomorrah, if you break it down. And then gone after strange flesh because they were not human, yet were having intimacy with humans, which would be considered strange flesh or strange fruit. Like back in the days when you couldn't intermarry with different races, you would call it strange fruit, swirling today, but that's what it would be called. So it would be, who would these angels be intermingling with? If it's not themselves, it's with the women on earth that they saw that the women were gorgeous and they wanted to lay with them, right? They were not allowed to, but did. They had free will to be righteous, but chose to be wicked instead. And in the Book of Enoch, it tells us how they made a contract with each other to have intimacy with human women because they were afraid that if only one of them carried through with their plan after many had agreed to it, then only one would be punished despite it being a group agreement. This is not a scriptural reference. And again, I don't like to use non-scriptural references. I really don't. But for the sake of the video, let's dive into this, that in chapter 7, it says, "It happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, 'Come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children.' Then their leader, Samyaza, said to them, 'I fear that you may perhaps be indisposed to the performance of this enterprise, and that I alone shall suffer for so grievous a crime,' right? But they answered him and said, 'We all swear and bind ourselves by mutual execrations that we will not change our intention, but execute our projected undertaking. Then they swore all together, all bound themselves by mutual execrations. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. The mountain therefore was called Armon, because they had sworn upon it and bound themselves by mutual execrations. These are the names of their chiefs. You know, he names all of the chiefs of angels in the Book of Enoch. Samyaza, who was their leader. I'm not even going to try to pronounce some of these names. But y'all see them, okay? These were the prefects of the 200 angels, and the remainder were all with them. Then they took wives, each choosing for himself whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabitated, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. And the women conceiving brought forth giants, whose stature was seen 300 cubits, was each 300 cubits. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, until it became impossible to feed them, when they turned themselves against men in order to devour them. The word used to describe how they were in chains in Jude is the word desmos. It carries the meaning of chains as well as physical impediment. Definition: a bond, chain, imprisonment, a string of ligament, an impediment, infirmity. We put it together with kept, which is sometimes translated as reserve. It shows they were not imprisoned in a place of military enforcement like Satan is in Revelation, where he is locked up in a place of military enforcement so that he is not able to move around freely on the earth for nearly 1,000 years. That is a different word used for him than this word here, terrero. The angels were watched and impeded from being sensually viable. We know from satanic sources that succubus, male angels, with female humans, still occur in covens today, but they are not viable. They do not produce babies. They did at one stage. They were not ordained to do that. So Jesus correctly stated that they do not marry. Who would they marry anyway if there are no female angels to marry? We will likewise not marry in heaven like the angels. I know that was a long read, but when you look at it this way, this is what I believe is meant by it. And here's where in the Book of Enoch, but there's some things just based from being in the Haitian culture that I'm like, okay, that is factual, is that there's people in Haiti right now. I will not mention the names, but if you're Haitian, you could comment below. There's a famous woman in Haiti who does music and sing too, but her name is, she's a mermaid. She comes every now and then and she sings. She has the long locks that touch her feet or whatever. And, she calls herself a mermaid, and she's a deity that's been there. It's kind of like in other cultures how they say avatars, but she's just been here, whatever. And in Haiti, there's people that they call it ambate, like meaning they go underground or they go into the water. Where I'm from, Lagonav specifically, and Lagonav, there's nothing but fishermen. We're on the coast of the sea. It's on the coast, so it's nothing but fishermen. So you deal with that. There's innate fear of the water that they always had. Do not go in the water. Of course, there's people that will disappear. They'll walk into the water. People will see with their eyes. This is just real stuff. They'll see with their eyes people walk into the water and just sink below the water, whatever deity is calling them, and they're gone for years or months or days, even sometimes months, and then they'll come back, and they'll come back with riches, new knowledge, and they'll come back with this wisdom, which I call all of these wisdom. I really believe that all these sea demons, mermaids, all those things are really just fallen angels here to deceive, here to deceive, give you seducing knowledge and wisdom, make you believe there's so much more out there, creating this image, but all for the same goal of removing yourself from the one true God. Because in Haiti, though these people serve these deities and they go underwater and they worship them and stuff, and they possess them even during rituals, again, there's only one name in which these demons flee, and that is the name of Jesus Christ, okay? There's so many testimonies through that where they have no power over you. They have no power over you. So they all are under submission of Jesus Christ, meaning they're all fallen angels. It doesn't matter how powerful these deities look, how much they seem to be able to do and get away with, and there's no reason to fear what is under the submission of God. And the name of Jesus, his son, is where they flee. And that is facts that I'm telling you. Facts, period. Okay? So that does happen, especially with root knowledge, knowing how to use herbs and stuff. And there's people there's people in Haiti, everyone has at least one person. And unless you hear and you really, hear you not. But in Haiti, everyone had at least one person in their family that is into that lifestyle. That's just the reality of it. It is a strong voodoo culture. And even if they're Christian or in the church, there's people that still be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, still living that life. And I knew a lot of people that would practice woodwork and herbs and stuff, and they'll get their knowledge from these deities in the water. And just like in African culture, they'll call them ancestors. Like I told you guys, the honeypot, basically in another video on their mission or their story of how they came to be, she wrote that it was in a dream. An ancestor came and spoke to her and gave her the formula to create, the honeypot product to use and stuff, which, again, me just being with all due respect to all religions and stuff and beliefs, ancestors, once you die, you die until the second coming. That's just biblical. If you're a Christian, you know that there's no such thing. It's demons, But if you say that, it's called disrespectful. But then, when you've actually dealt with these things in real life, they're all demons. They're all demons. They're all fallen angels, etc. I don't want to get too far off track with the mermaid situation, but in the Book of Enoch, I agree with that they did give, there was knowledge in even the illuminated ones that you'd call Illuminati. They call themselves the illuminated ones because they got special knowledge from where, right? That's just, guys, there's just so much out there, okay? And I don't know if you guys ever seen, is it Lucy? Is the movie named Lucy? Yes, it is, with Scarlett Johansson, where she used full and make. First of all, Lucy is Lucifer means light bearer, bearer of light, illuminated, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? So Lucy is short for Lucy. And she apparently, the whole premise of the movie was that she became God when she unlocked 100% of her knowledge, and she came to Lucify the earth to bring them knowledge and stuff like that, and go back and show you the first man was a monkey. We've talked about evolution already on this channel. I'll put, videos. I'll actually put my spiritual playlist in the comments where we talked about evolution, dinosaurs, all of that stuff, and then break it down from a scientific standpoint, etc. if you're interested in that type of content. But the whole illuminated thing is a lot of people in these cult religions and practices and, different religions, they do believe, I'm talking about the more westernized, illuminated religions, just read between the line. They do believe that Lucifer is a light bearer that came to give wisdom where the Lord tried to hide and be selfish and keep the knowledge for himself. He's given us the wisdom. We're illuminated and everyone else is not. We were chosen to have this special knowledge, special wisdom, which is basically the doctrine of the Garden of Eden, right? The serpent wanted to illuminate Eve. It wasn't necessarily the fruit that was the sin. Eating the fruit is Eve was enticed at the possibility of having such wisdom and being like God. That was what was forbidden, to be like God. That was the original sin. Of course, serpents did not talk, though they were beautiful creatures as described in the Bible. They had wings that glistened in the sun when they flew in the sky. It looked like gold that was flying. That's all biblical. And the most beautiful creature that was in the garden, according to scripture, but they did not have speech. So the first thing that enticed Eve to believe that maybe this fruit will make me like God is that this serpent ate the fruit and now has speech. Maybe I can eat it because the serpent didn't die. It has speech. Who knows what it could do to me? So that was where the seduction started. And this is where these mermaids and these sea demons, this is how they get people. And it's especially tough for you if you're a sapiosexual. I did a video on that too, which is just people that are attracted to knowledge and wisdom. You can find yourself wanting to just know. As humans, we want to know and tap into every type of knowledge, but not every knowledge is good knowledge. And some knowledge are deceptive and they dig a hole for you and you get into a place that you can't come back and you allow spirits to come in. So not every knowledge is good knowledge, okay? But I don't want to get too far because I'm going on a tangent. One could technically argue that if mermaids were ever a thing, based on the depictions of them being cruel creatures that use their beauty to lure people to their deaths, mermaids would be demons in disguise. And Satan, along with other angels, fell to become demons, so this is a technical term. However, fallen angels are typically not referred to as angels except in a discussion of technicality. Enoch chapter 19, verse 2, it says, the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. Sirens can be translated into two different creatures. First, we have the Greek siren, which is a half bird, half human creature, and then the siren can also be translated to mermaid. However, over time, the word siren has been a title to describe a particular type of mermaid that sings, a hypnotic song that lures men off their ships to their watery demise. There is even a show called Siren that is about mermaids. And the Bible mentions how in a new earth, there won't be any oceans, meaning God views oceans as something unholy, perhaps. The very purpose of demonic marine spirits, better known as mermaids inhabiting the oceans. Revelations 21 verse 1 says, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. Now, it doesn't matter which version of the Bible you read, it says that there's no any sea. There's no longer any sea when the new heaven and the new earth come. And you're like, how? Does that mean that dolphins and sharks and, all of the animals that used to be in the sea, will they go away? No, I don't think so. If you watch my evolution my video on dinosaurs, etc., it explains that there was a time that when God originally made Earth, the earth wasn't, the sea was not salty. Everything was sweet water, and every animal that was in the water ate plants. All these creatures that you see, like sharks just eating other animals and stuff, it was not like that. I think everything will go back to God's original design, but even better, to where the sea as we know it will not be as we know it. But will large bodies of water be gone? In my opinion, not saying biblical, I don't think so, right? So to continue, it says, now that we know these creatures are biblical, it's pretty obvious these aquatic humanoid creatures survived the Great Flood. Their natural habitat is water, so that would explain why there are still so many sightings to this day. And I wouldn't necessarily say that their natural habitat is water per se. I would just say that I believe that the angels, when God created them, could go anywhere. Like, they have free reign. I mean, come on, angels will come through to Earth to do God's service through the galaxies. While you need to be in a space shuttle to quote unquote go to space, but I don't believe in NASA. Judge me in the comments. That you can judge me for. But while you need a spaceship to fly up there, angels were freely coming at the speed of light from heaven to earth to assist God's. Sorry, my camera ended up dying mid-conversation, but what I was saying was angels could come at the speed of light, to come and assist God's people whenever God would send them out to come and assist. They were just coming while you need a space shuttle. You need protective gear to go through space. They were just coming willy-nilly like that by themselves and with no kind of assistance. So who's to say they are limited even by the sea, especially the fallen angels and Lucifer? Who's to say they're limited to just air? Of course, they probably, just like in space, we can't survive. God has given us our boundaries. We can't survive in water. And even to go to space, we're limited even by that. Like if you're on an airplane, even though you're on an airplane, the altitudes, if they go too high, you start to suffocate and lose oxygen, right? But angels are not bound to that. So I doubt they're bound to just water. It's not necessarily just that, but water is a place they know humans cannot come. And you got to understand, much of the ocean is still unexplored, and it's so deep, and gravity towards a certain point of the ocean, I believe in the firmament, at the bottom, you're feeling gravity like this. You can't go any further. It could just pressure and listen, the sea is something, because now you're entering into space. That's just my little thought. Y'all don't have to quote me on that and be like it's scientific or anything like that. But if you even look at the dome shape of the earth, etc. I know some people ask me to do the whole flat earth thing, but I know how on the internet, how y'all go with that. But I do believe that, hey, that's a fact. That's actual scientific fact that the ocean is very unexplored. We only know probably 10%, 3% of it. So we don't know what's in there. And since humans cannot go much further or explore much, of course, all these fallen angels, this would be their place, to dwell. People that are in the occult world in Haiti would tell you that most of the technology that we have today, especially AI, but that's another video I'm working on for you guys, is the AI video that was requested also on Instagram on my stories. But most of it is definitely, definitely they say a lot of those technologies were found in a lot of those technologies, the wisdom from it came from people that went under the earth, under the sea, which is to get that knowledge. So believe what you may with that. But one thing I'll say, especially with a lot of biblical scholars in the context of mythical creatures, they'll, be so against, and I understand, regardless of what you believe, anything that you can imagine, angels can take the form of anything that's biblical. Angels can take the form of a normal. The Lord said to be careful in the Bible verse I put up here for you, to be nice and kind to everyone, showing hospitality, because you never know when you are entertaining angels. And that is said because angels will come in any form and shape. They can shapeshift, essentially, right? They can become whatever the Lord wants them to be in that moment to help his people. And the Lord wants us to know, hey, be careful. You never know who you're entertaining. Even in Sodom and Gomorrah, when Lot, the angels of the Lord came and they were pulling him out and stuff, there were angels that came. But the people of Sodom believed that they were just strangers that came and tried to lay with them, with the angels, not knowing that they were dealing with angels. I don't know why it's so hard to imagine that a fallen angel or a demon can take the shape and the form of these mythical creatures and do signs and wonders to deceive and take people and turn them away, which is it's very convincing, to these people that they cannot leave their religions alone, a lot of them, or their understanding of these beings that they serve. But this being did that, this being did that. But I always say, if you're going to serve another God or another being, ask yourself, what is that God asking you to do morally? Because a lot of these demons in the water, for them to give you that knowledge, especially in Haiti, and that's just from experience with talking to and being around that lifestyle with people that have done this, they might ask you to sacrifice one of your children. 1er Janvier, which would be the 1st of January, around December time, the last 2 weeks of December, Haiti is the last place. Is not a safe place. Everybody's looking for little children, newborn. If you have a little child, you dedicate that child to prayer and to God for protection, because they're looking for children to sacrifice to these same gods for their year, for their crops, for their businesses, to continue their wealth, to find love. They sacrifice children, literally. I've had my experience of, a family that was renting the bottom of our house in Port-au-Prince, because my Port-au-Prince family, my dad's side of the family, always had they were wealthy, but where I came from, La Guanave, was not so. But when we went to my father's family house before we came, they had a 3-story house. So the bottom of the story, they'd rent out to, people. And it just happened, this family and this lady in there, the community felt weary about her because the minute she came and moved in, stuff was happening to the kids. And the way it happened in Haiti, we take justice into our own hands. And me just playing around, they had these windows in Haiti that are shaped like, basically they have art inside of the walls. So the walls are carved with like different shapes. That's the window, basically. So you could see inside someone's house through the wall where it's etched and sketched. And the bottom of the house that's how the windows were shaped. And so there's like the curtains, but you could just kind of push aside if you have, little children hands to see. And basically, I saw some stuff I wasn't supposed to see with that lady, to keep it PG. And yeah, I was not one to not talk. I talked a lot. So definitely I snitched, and my family were very Christian, very, let's go to revivals, etc. They were not having that. And the whole community dealt with that lady. They came to look because their children literally would, a lot of the terms, forgive me, I'll try to describe in English, but I don't know how to say in English. But it's like they, in a way, if you see somebody start to lose a lot of weight and they're shrinking and they're sick, but you go to doctors don't necessarily know what's wrong with them, but they're losing a lot of weight. They say in Haiti, sucer sang, which is like sucking the blood or the life force out of you, because we know the Bible says the life is in the blood, which is why we should not eat meat with the blood in it, because the life force is in the blood. And basically witches and occultists can ask their gods to do little things like that. If you're not rooted in the Lord, these things have an effect on you. And so these families would have their children or who, come up and they'd be getting mad sick, losing weight, son, and some of these kids started disappearing. And this lady was doing things she was not supposed to be doing. And they got her and they gave her justice. I'll just say that. Very traumatic, but it's why I'm so against this life when I speak on this channel. Some people get annoyed with how I'm not with all this Christian stuff or blah, 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 blah. Listen, I believe in the West, people have it very good. They don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff, but there is a little PTSD from living in places where these things are so common. And I just always had a pure disgust for it, for the things that I would witness. Sacrificing children is just unbelievable to me. And now even to think about it, for what? For what? Because the same deity may for a minute give you what you request, what you ask for, whether it's a husband, because these women would do anything for a husband, sacrifice somebody else's child for a husband, yes. And okay, so you get the husband, and those demons always come back to collect. There's something, sacrificing that child is not enough. They come for your mental health. They eventually come back. That husband may die at a period of time. Okay, we'll give you the husband, but you only have him for 10 years. We'll give you the child that you want, the dream life, the wealth, but at 44, you will die. At 50, we're going to claim you. And they claim your soul, and they have dominion over your household. And if you're a product, you're a child of such marriage that came from enchantment and stuff like that, you're wondering why things keep going bad for you in the Caribbean, why your family's not blessed. The sun is coming in great. Excuse me for that. But you're wondering why all these things are happening, but it's a product that you have to pray these spells and these things are broken, right? But in my final thought, to wrap this up, where do I stand with the whole mermaid thing? I believe they're all fallen angels. All of it are fallen angels. But I do believe that fallen angels dwell in the sea. And because we don't have access to it, they can be themselves. And I do believe that, a lot of the stories that does happen. And I do believe there's people that serve these deities, and they have spiritual marriages in Haiti and Africa too, where people come into union with these spirits. And you would say you become one with God through baptism of water and then of fire, which is the Holy Spirit, right? That's a marriage, a union, which is why God compares the church, which is his people, the body of Christ, to that of a bride. And he's a bridegroom coming to get us or whatever. We are in union with him when we baptize. And these people have their own baptism with mud and filth. There's this true story in Haiti. This gentleman that he was a Christian Adventist, baptized and was in union with Christ, but he wanted to go into that world. He wanted something. And he went into the occult world to get that thing. But the deities, the doctor that was working on him was telling him, there's a sosu, like you have a stamp on you, a bright stamp, which is the mark of the Lord. And before we could work on you or give you what you're requesting, you must go remove that mark. And how did he remove it? And this is true story. He had to go and bathe in mud and pig filth and labu is what we call it in Haiti, just filth, dirty water, filthy water. He had to go rinse to remove the mark of the Lord in him. And then these spirits were able to work in his life, and his life went downhill after. You get what you want, but it go downhill. God never asks you to do any such thing. His baptism is pure and clean water. He'll never ask you to sacrifice your children. He'll never ask you to do harm to anyone. If anything, the 10 Commandments are moral laws that people should just live by in general for a better society. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, steal, covet from your neighbor, covet your neighbor's house. Even the Sabbath is a day of rest that you need. We have, how many people are burnt out right now? You need family time, you need to rest, you need to chill, even then, right? And to only serve one God, your God, the creator of the whole earth, you know? Like, what in his 10 Commandments is bad for us to do? Men in their own flesh and sin went astray, did their own thing that he had to, you know, let them enforce their rules. Like, God never even wanted Israel to have a king. The people begged for a king, and God told Samuel, hey, they rejected me as their king. They want a king, a worldly king, give them a king. And that's how Saul came to be the first king of Israel. God didn't even want us, his people, to abide by the laws and rules of this earth, okay? But we want to do our own thing. He always destined for one marriage with one person. We wanted our own thing. Everything in life we have wanted and done ourselves. Even when you look at the Old Testament, some of the what I deem barbaric laws, and God in his grace sent his son to die so that we don't even have to look into these practices. But it was just the sin of men, and their thoughts all went towards evil and evil inclinations, and you just had to cut it at the root. And now we're back in the same days. I don't mean to go all preachy and sermony, but that's the thing with that. Like, I love the ocean. Don't get me wrong. I do love the ocean, but I'm hesitant. I'll stay on the shore. And even on the shore, I'm guarding everywhere because I know nature, period. I respect nature, period. And I know there's a lot we don't understand with nature. But, and just all the stories my mom used to tell us, family, people around, of like, you know, even the fishermen, because I go now, that's all it was. The fishermen would always come back and talk about the mermaids that they saw, you know, how they looked, and they were not beautiful creatures, like how they take people and blah, 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 blah. Just all the stories that I would always hear, though I've never, you know, gratefully never and never will, amen, deal or encounter with that. I just know, you know, the ocean is a weird place. It's a weird place. That has always been, as a child, the ocean is a weird place. I get seasick really easily, even if I'm on a boat or a yacht. I get seasick. I have to drink a little ginger ale, blah, blah, blah. I can't, you know, don't go too fast or whatever. And I'm just careful with the water.
The calculation is that 27 million square kilometers that was above water during the Ice Age is underwater now. We did a lot of diving in southern India, so it was great for her to be able to talk in their own language to Tamil fishermen and Tamil divers and see if they'd seen any weird stuff underwater, which they certainly had.
Most of human civilization has been organized around water, right? And as the water levels change, some of those ancient cities could be completely covered.
Waka's urban landscape, as depicted in ancient texts, was nothing short of architectural grandeur. The city boasted of meticulously planned streets, a state-of-the-art drainage system, and formidable fortifications.
Astonishingly, scientists remain on the brink of discovering even more living wonders, estimating the potential existence of several 100,000 to a few million yet-to-be-identified species. What oddities are there in the ocean? During the Arctic expedition, the team employed camera equipment to unveil the secrets of the seafloor at Langseth Ridge. Their captivating photographs unveiled an underwater world teeming with extraordinary richness and densely populated habitats perched on top of long-extinct volcanoes. This revelation left scientists awestruck, as the common understanding was that sponges thrived universally in oceans, ranging from vibrant tropical reefs to icy Antarctic waters.
It is confidently reported that there is, in the following lake, fishes which differ in nothing from mankind, but in the want of speech and reason. This was written as part of the definition for mermaid in 1736 in the most popular English dictionary of the 18th century. If we search mermaids, dozens of maps pop up with mermaids depicted. Let's take a closer look at this 1658 map published by Robert Walton. If we zoom in on the continent, we see a lake with the words, "Where ye Tritons and mermaids are said to be." Other maps of Africa from the period actually have images of mermaids and mermen. Father de Pavia, a missionary, being in the Kingdom of Congo in Africa, who would not believe that there was such creatures, affirms that the Queen of Singa did see in a river coming out of Lake Zaire many mermaids something resembling a woman. But the river Zaire is real. Today, it's called the Congo River, and this is the river that mermaids were allegedly seen by the Queen. And this definitely wasn't the only reported sighting from the period. There was a bit of skepticism on the existence of mermaids in Europe at the time. To reference that dictionary one more time, the definition starts with mermaids where it has been thought they have been only the product of painter's invention. But then it's followed up by a list of 5 different sightings across the world. Other maps show mermaids in the ocean, but are vague in their location. Like this map of Southeast Asia by Abraham Ortelius in 1572. Though most of these images don't reference specific sightings or provide a specific location as the Africa map, they were probably a reflection of the many reported sightings. Christopher Columbus, while sailing near what is today Dominican Republic, claimed to have seen 3 mermaids, and wrote that they were not half as beautiful as they are painted. Henry Hudson, during his search for the Northeast Passage, wrote in his logbook, "One of our company, looking overboard, saw a mermaid, and calling up some of the company to see her. One more came up, and by that time she was come close to the ship's side, looking earnestly on the men. From the navel upward, her back and breast were like a woman, her body as big as one of us, her skin very white, and long hair hanging down behind, of color black. In her going down, they saw her tail, which was like the tail of a porpoise, and speckled like a mackerel."
I'm from Jamaica, and most of the Caribbeans like Haiti, Guyana, Jamaica, places like that, you hear about mermaids a lot. There's this bridge in Jamaica called Flat Bridge. People have been saying for a while that that's where all the mermaids stay at. In Jamaica, mermaids are called river mermaids. People would say that if the water at Flat Bridge turns green, that means that somebody's going to get pulled in the water by a mermaid. People would say that the mermaids would come out and sit on rocks and comb their hair. They said that if you see her while she's combing her hair, she would dip off in the water, or she would put you in a trance and drag you into the water into her kingdom. If she do drag you into her kingdom, you will become a slave for her. Or if she dip off in the water and leave her golden comb behind, the person who finds her golden comb will become rich. And she will basically get in contact with that person throughout a dream while they're sleeping, where she would lead them to her kingdom and keep them as her slave. If they get a dream from her, she tells them where the treasure is underneath the water. But this is a lie I heard. She just want to capture them to be her slave. People have tried to take pictures of her, but everybody who tried ended up in the hospital or dead. Actually, everything has to do with gold and jewelry because that is what they like. If they capture you, they would then take you underneath the water where they would kiss you so you could breathe underneath the water, and they will use you as a slave. The mermaids mostly go after children, which is why they were told to stay away from the water at a certain time. When the kids were caught, they used them as slaves or sometimes even sold them to other mermaids. A group of fishermen will always go there to fish, and they would say that when they go there, they would see a big, ugly, mermaid-like creature with big ugly eyes. They would try to shoot at it, but they would never get it. But they did get scales from the mermaid. One of the fishermen carried the scales home, where he was then meet in his dream by a fallen angel, and he became really sick. The sick fisherman told the rest of them to never go back there for fishing, but 2 of them never listened, and they went back there the next day to try to capture the mermaid. While they was there for a very long time, one of the friends decided to go home, and the other one stayed, and he told a friend that if he didn't come back up by noon, then that was his fate. 3 days later, he was found dead floating. A female mermaid transformed into a female human. She then strips her clothes off and tempts the man into following her. Once he get into the water, she then snatch him up, like I said, and bring him to her kingdom, where he would then become a slave, get her pregnant, or marry her. This is what they would do to men while they're passing by. Or they would just snatch you up, point blank, period. Now, part 7. At times when you do see them, they would sing to you before they eat you or before they kidnap you. Their singing would sound like sirens. You can fall in a trance. They would sometimes pull overboard trucks and cars into the bridge. Those trucks and cars was never found again. Another story is that quicksand is in the water. The story of this mermaid is being traced back to Africa when a transatlantic slave trade was going on. Some people would go to the mermaid and sacrifice animals to her for protection to cross her river or for protection from having a drought. Now, back to the gold table. The gold table is believed to be underneath the bridge, deep into the water. Golden table then rises to the top of the surface on hot days in Jamaica. It's mostly rising to the top for greedy people. Put it to the top to lure greedy people in because she know that they would try to take it for themselves. If they do try to take the table, they would then be pulled into the water.
I don't necessarily know why in the West. I think it's better for because come on. Lucifer has been here for a long time. He's ancient too and knows a lot too, So I think he knows it's better for the leader of thought of the world would be considered the West, America, Europe. It's better for them to be in a state of unbelief, to not, to see all of these things as mythical stories and to see Lucifer with the pitchfork and the horns and all of that. It's better. It's better for them. Why would they want you to know any semblance of truth? Then you'd be clinging to the feet of God. You'd be praying nonstop. You'd be dependent on the Lord, your Savior, if you knew just what was out there. And I believe the Lord, like he said, he's a gentleman. The Lord is a gentleman. He knocks, okay? He don't just barge in. He said, I knock at the door. If you open, I will come in and dine with you. But he will not force himself on us. And we have to cling to him and he will cling to us, okay? Seek him and he will draw near to us, okay? So I believe it is part of the agenda to make us not believe, to make us live in a spirit of disbelief all the time, to think everything's a joke and everything's an aesthetic or a fad or, but it's not. And sirens, yeah, I know Hollywood glamorized it. We talked about it, even in books, the art of seduction, etc. I used to, play around with that word even with myself, but to know that they go after children, they eat children, they play with your mind and stuff. It's just not, I don't understand the glamorization of it fully. A lot of terms that are glamorized in Western society are so demonic. I just don't understand. But it makes sense. I stopped questioning or being upset with people of other cultures when they don't necessarily understand why someone, because one thing I tell y'all, if there's anything Westerners will do is argue with me in the comments about culture. And I'm like, you ain't never stepped foot in any of these places that really practice this art that you're trying to preserve. And you're arguing with me about culture. I stopped being mad about it because, listen, to them, it's an aesthetic. Even the jewelry, the tattoos of these symbolisms, the pieces, certain things, it's an aesthetic. It's an aesthetic to be that spiritual girly, that woke, that trippy girly. It's an aesthetic. And I don't know what to say. And I'm not mad at it because that's just the West. But you have to really pray that God delivers you from the need to fall into those aesthetics. They're all just vanity. That's all I have to say on this subject. This was long, but y'all already knew it would be long because y'all know how I can ramble on these type of topics, okay? But I have a lot of videos lined up for you guys. And if you want to really have your requests seen, because typically I look at the comments when I first upload for a minute. And then, after a while, I upload a new video. So I'm focused on those comments. If you have a request you want, follow my Instagram page. Also, the link is in the description. And I do Q&As often. I try to do them at least once a month, once every 2 weeks or whatever, to get requests and to answer some questions also on my stories. So look out for that because I do see all of the requests and I mark them down. But also feel free to comment below your requests in the comment section and I will try to get through all of them. Now that you have watched the video, what do you believe about mermaids? Do you believe mermaids are real? Or do you believe, nah, sis, you lost me with everything you cuckoo, but this was entertaining. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next one. Yeah.